What's up, faithful? Welcome back to the Saloon, presented by Cisco. I'm your 49ers team reporter, Briana Jeannel, sitting down with Larry Krueger right after the 49ers wild card win in Philly. Larry, you were in the building for that one. How crazy was the scene once the 49ers finally sealed that win over the Eagles?
Well, it was one of the great moments in 49er history. It was Brock Purdy's first road win in the playoffs, and it was the unthinkable for a lot of people that the Niners could go into Philly and knock off the world champions and do it on defense as well. And their Niners defense, I was so impressed by Garrett Wallow, Marquise Siegel, Eric Kendricks, Robert Saleh's game plan. So, total team win. Obviously, there's some tragedy with the loss of George, which made it, kind of bittersweet, but still sweet, very sweet.
Absolutely. Now the team is all behind George Kittle in his hopefully speedy recovery back to full health. It was absolutely unfortunate to see him go down. However, it was an emotional game throughout the entire contest for those watching. A lot of up and downs on Sunday. What stood out most to you about the way the 49ers handled this game, given all the challenges?
Well, what stood out to me was that they were ready to go at the anthem, at the start of the game. And you remember the first Philly game a couple of years ago in the playoffs, that game got out of hand early, and there was a challenge that should have been challenged. There was a injury to Purdy, and things just tumbled. Demarcus Robinson is a big-time player. He had 7 touchdowns last year. He's a veteran. He's been a little bit underutilized. And for him to step up in that moment was just spectacular. And his weaving down the field, I thought, was one of the biggest plays of the game because it was the first play. And it announced to the crowd that the 49ers were there and that it wasn't going to be a one-sided, Eagles coronation. It was going to be a really hardly fought contested football game. And it was beautiful to see. You
think a lot of these postseason games are going to be about who strikes first?
I think it's a huge part of it, yeah. Because settling into the game is a big part of playoff football. Which team settles in well? And that's where I think the Niners may have an advantage because you have so many veteran players. There's a lot of guys in that room that have been in the Super Bowl. Once you've played in Super Bowl overtime, you know what? No division round game, no wild card game you're not going to be, you've played on a bigger stage with more higher stakes. I think that benefits the 49ers. I really do.
Definitely. And looking back at the regular season and with all those primetime games, the Niners knew how to show up in the brightest of lights. So really cool to see that. Now, I have to say, this postseason run looks and feels a lot different from postseason runs in recent history. How would you characterize this team as they're on this track and as they look towards the divisional round now?
Well, there's been so much adversity that I think there's a grittiness to this team that I haven't seen in other teams. I don't want to be critical of other teams, but there is a grit to this team because of losing Fred, losing Nick, losing Mikal, losing Brock Purdy for 8 games, having to lean on your backups. It's a true team. And when you have that grit factor and you have a room that's united, you can do an awful lot.
Yeah, now let's take a closer look at this win against the Eagles. At what point did you feel the 49ers really had a control of the game? Was it out the gate, like you said, at the national anthem, or was it closer in that fourth quarter?
I guess in one hand I could say when the clock struck 0 and we were walking down to the locker room, but I kind of felt really good about it when the Niners got the ball on their last drive because Brock Purdy had thrown 2 picks. And Brock Purdy, I know Brock Purdy. He is a competitive guy, and he bounces back from his failures in a big way, and he doesn't shy away from the moment. And I knew he was going to fire, and you could kind of get the feeling when he made that first completion, I think it was to Juszczyk in a real tight window on the final drive, that he was locked in. And there was a nervousness about the Eagle crowd because they sensed it. The magic of Purdy, if you want to call it that. He's just very good in the moment. If you think about it, he's won with some big drives at the end of games. And at the beginning of that last offensive drive, I kind of felt like, you know what? Brock's got this, and he's going to figure this out. That's when I kind of felt like, you know what? The tide has turned. Whatever momentum has shifted.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to hear your reaction to this sky bang reverse pass, the trick play from that touchdown pass, Jauan Jennings to Christian McCaffrey. What was your reaction when you saw that unfold?
Well, because you could see it unfolding. And I kind of was like Tom Brady on the thing where Tom like jumped over Burkhardt and was like, hey, because he could see it and you could kind of see it. And then I quickly, once I saw JJ ran with the ball, my eyes shifted downfield and I saw McCaffrey and he had 3 yards of separation, or let's say 2.5. And I thought, okay, you know what? This is gonna be good. But then I saw Jalen Carter. And Carter is one of the best interior rushers in the game. And JJ is drifting, and we know he's got cracked ribs. And he's drifting, but he held the ball, and then released it. And I loved it because he left it up high. I mean, it showed the tough. It was a great call, but it showed the toughness of JJ. A lot of people with broken ribs would be thinking about their ribs and Jalen Carter bearing down on them. Instead, he's thinking only about winning.
Completing this play
and completing this pass. And he laid it out there, and the way he laid it out, I was worried about Christian because Christian's doing, looking over his right shoulder, over his left shoulder. But then you and I know Christian as well. He's very, very competitive. They all are, but he's on a different level. And I'm like, that's the guy you want to throw it to. He's going to come away with it. So I loved it. I mean, it showed it was a great play call by Shanahan. Purdy, I think, probably thought maybe I should get in front of Jalen Carter. Probably made a business decision not to. But for the toughness of Jennings to stand in, when he released it, he took a full hit on those broken ribs. Unbelievable. The toughness of him, and then the competitiveness of CMC to say, I don't care if it's over my right shoulder, left shoulder. I don't care what it is. I am corralling this. I thought I had 3, credit Shanahan, great play call, or Kubiak. Credit the toughness of JJ and the competitiveness of CMC.
Definitely. I mean, you don't see a lot of elite receivers make that kind of catch. And so seeing Christian McCaffrey make that, you said it just now that he's a super ultra competitive guy, and give it up to Jauan Jennings and the way he's been able to throw some touchdown passes in the postseason. What do you think of JJ as a quarterback? Because he was a quarterback in high school.
Well, not just a quarterback. He was supposedly higher rated than Lamar Jackson. He was higher rated than Sam Darnold in high school.
Crazy to look at, yeah.
Which also kind of makes me want to ask Kyle, shouldn't JJ be the emergency quarterback? I almost feel like he's the guy that should be the emergency quarterback, not CMC or Juice. But yeah, I mean, Jauan, you guys did a thing about a month ago, and you had 3 cups on the table, and you had guys with ping pong paddles.
Yep, that's right.
And everybody got like 7 tries, 8 tries, 10 tries. JJ looked at it, kind of assessed the situation, then reached back and hit it as hard as he could. And I think he knocked them all down in like 2 tries. And I'm like, I'm showing this to my son, and I'm like, this is why that guy's that guy, because it doesn't matter if it's Monopoly, football, or this game that you guys are playing. He wants to win.
Yeah, our social team was working in overtime to show off just how elite our guys are, both on the football field and off. So speaking of quarterback play, how would you evaluate Brock Purdy's performance? What did he show in the fourth quarter that really helped the 49ers close this game?
The guy is... he had a play, I think in the fourth quarter. It was second down, and Eagles got great penetration, and the play is going to break up in the backfield. It's going to be a sack. And instead, Brock takes a couple steps, moves a couple steps, and dives forward, and he got 5 yards, and he picked up the first down. And it's plays like that where he can turn a negative play into a positive play because of his quickness. But there's also, he's the leader. I mean, I know it sounds a little hokey to people who are listening going, oh, wait, leader, come on, this is pro football. But they have to be led. And these guys, and I get a chance to go in the locker room, you do as well, and talk to the players, they believe in Brock Purdy. And so that belief is stemmed out of his preparation and his leadership and his toughness. And I thought he played great. I mean, when you consider the wind, because we're talking about 25-mile-an-hour winds, the atmosphere, how cold it is, you can't feel your hands, and the touch passes that he made, the accuracy. I really believe that Brock Purdy's a great quarterback that we think of as a good quarterback. And when he wins championships in the next few years, people are going to say, oh, you know what? He's a great quarterback. But I think he is a great quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. There were a few mistakes. However, he got the job done. The Eagles only scored 3 points off of those 2 interceptions. What did the 49ers do well defensively in those situations when it came time to step up and help protect the team there?
Well, I mean, defensively, I think the 49ers were really tied together. I mean, I really credit Kendricks and Wallow. They did a really nice job at moving the line around, making sure they were lined up correctly. Getting lined up right is a big part about playing defense. I credit Kendricks and Wallow. They were really active. They did a great job. I mean, Saquon Barkley is a terrific back. This is a really good football team the Eagles have. So I thought the defense was really strong. Now, the Eagles have their own problems offensively, but the Niners showed up on all three levels. The other guy that I think I have to mention is Upton Stout. I mean, Upton Stout is just a tremendous player.
Yeah, that first down PBU really helped kill the Eagles' momentum and then put the 49ers in overdrive to open up that second half. Now, the final play came down to Eric Kendricks knocking down a fourth down pass. He played all 73 defensive snaps on Sunday. After only seeing the field for just 45 defensive snaps during the regular season, Garrett Wallow also leading the team in tackles. How impressive were their performances, and what stood out to you about the defense overall against Philly?
Well, those two guys. Okay, first of all, I mentioned this to Kendricks in the postgame. I'm like, you play 16 games a year, 17 games now. He hasn't played that this year. He's played very few games, so he's fresh. And Wallow, I think, has been a special teamer. This is the biggest game of his life. And these guys were mentally prepared. I credit Saleh, I credit Johnny Holland, but I also credit those two guys. I mean, they really got in their playbook. They were mentally into the plan. They knew exactly what they were doing. They moved with confidence out there. But all three levels of the defense played well. Renardo Green, who's had some rough games, really locked down his guy. The other thing I really liked is that this officiating crew, people focused, well, they're from Williamsport, PA. But the real issue was, or the real noticeable factor, is that they'd only allowed like the second fewest penalties in the league. And so they let them play. They let him play, and that was a great sign for the Niners because Renardo was very physical, but he didn't get flagged for any of the PI calls.
Yeah, another name to shout out, defensive quality control coach KJ Wright. Kyle also mentioned him in the press conference on Monday. So huge shout out to that coaching staff, the guys for stepping up in this round. With all this being said, I do have to say this was the Demarcus Robinson game. From the first drive to the last quarter, he showed up for this offense. How cool is it to see Kyle Shanahan, Clay Kubiak create these game plans for players against very specific opponents over the season?
Well, that's impressive, but I also, when I see Robinson, I think of John Lynch because look at the depth of this roster. You know, you can't win unless the guys step up. Siegel stepped up. Wallow stepped up. Linebackers hadn't even been in the building a month before. But Demarcus Robinson, I talked to him about a month ago, and I said, you can do more. And he's like, I know. He's like, but I don't want to say anything. I'm just biding my time. I'll be here when they need me. And they needed him, and he stepped up.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what is your overall outlook for the 49ers as we head into the divisional round?
I feel good. I feel good about them. I think they're going to go to Seattle and get the win. I think Seattle is a good football team, but I think the Niners didn't play their best effort in this last game, and I think they're going to fire a much stronger effort this time around. I like the 49ers to solve Seattle's defense, maybe a little bit more misdirection in this next game.
Yeah. All right. Well, a season finale rematch this time at Seattle's house. Larry, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in Seattle.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's go on the field following the 49ers win over the Eagles in Philadelphia. I caught up with cornerback Upton Stout as he talked about his first playoff appearance. Upton, you're moving on to the divisional round. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This game was only an example of the challenges this team has faced all season.
Sure.
Tell me how this one feels for you.
I mean, it feels good. You know, we faced adversity all year. We even faced adversity during the game, losing Kittle, but we never look back. We never blink. It feels good. I'm speechless. It feels good right now. First playoff win, man. I'm glad I did it with my brothers.
Exactly. Way to lead the defense that first half PVU in your first playoff. Now tell me, what was the message going into this game?
Really just leave it all out on the field. Whatever it takes. We won't. If it's 50-49, if it's 10-9, it don't matter. Whatever it takes to get off this field and leave with a win. So that's what we did. We left it all on the field and we just whatever it took.
First playoff win officially in the books, and now it's time to strike. Tell me what keeps you faithful about this 49er squad moving into Seattle in the divisional round.
I mean, I just feel like this is all a blessing. I just thank God for just me being put in this position, me being able to come here and just the teammates I got around me, the brothers I got around me, everybody keeps lifting each other up, and it's always next man up mentality. So it's a blessing right now.
Enjoy the win, Upton.
Thank you.
Now, head coach Kyle Shanahan spoke to the media on Tuesday following Sunday's wildcard win, and he gave a few key updates on the status of Fred Warner. He also talked about how the 49ers are preparing for the Seahawks on a short week and his outlook on that Seattle divisional round game.
They affect the game plan when you play anything twice, but then back-to-back games for you.
You'll see when you get to the game, but it's you definitely can't overthink it. But it's also, at the same time, kind of hard to overthink. Not anything has gone down since the last game. Well, they got to watch 70 or so plays of whatever we did versus Philly. But, we get in late, whatever, and, there's one game for us to watch, and that's the one that we all watched last week. So you only can watch that so much. We know each other very well. We played against each other a ton. The schemes, even last time we played, didn't change much on both sides as opposed to week one. So I think both teams got an idea of exactly what to expect. There's always wrinkles and timing and situational when you're going to see that stuff, but it kind of simplifies everything, which usually the playoffs as a whole are kind of that way too.
Backside McDonald, what kind of stands out to you?
All four of it. I think they're extremely talented at all three levels. I think they have a very good scheme that's very balanced and they can hit you in any way. I think the personnel not only is talented for any scheme, but is perfectly talented for their scheme. And I think they've been playing with not the exact same group, but close to the same group for 2 straight years. And when you have a talented group with a very good scheme that's been playing together for 2 years, they get pretty good.
Is the 49er fan base to show up?
Oh, always. I mean, our fan base shows up better than anyone to me in the NFL, or better than anyone wherever I've ever been by far. I think it's always harder in the playoffs. For some reason, I don't know how it works, but stadiums do a better job of getting it to their home fans. But our fans roll deep, so hopefully it'll be the same as usual.
Been an update as to whether or not Fred could.
We're activated. We're opening his window so he can do some stuff like that. But again, we're not doing much, so he'll walk through out there with us today and things like that. But hoping he can be ready for next week.
Wants to play, but do you have to hold him back a little yourself, or how do you kind of approach a situation like this?
Approach it by what doctors tell me. I mean, I'm like Fred. If he feels good and tells me he's good, I'm probably going to think he's good and trust him to get out there. But you can't always think with your heart and emotionally, And so you ask doctors where he's at, all the things that these guys have to pass, just protocols that we have in with just sprinting and jumping and things like that. And he's got to hit all those before we feel it's safe.
All right, now joining me from the Seattle Seahawks is John Boyle. John, how are you? How was your bye?
I'm doing great. It was nice to have a little time home with the kids and not be on the road. So, but also excited to get back to it.
Yeah, this one should be fun. The Seahawks opponent for the divisional round came down to the 49ers-Eagles game on Sunday. As you were watching the game unfold, what were some of the thoughts you had when you came to learn that Seattle would play the team they last saw now for the divisional round, making it the third matchup between the Hawks and the Niners this season?
Yeah, it's felt for a long time this season like the path to playoff success and for one team the Super Bowl is going to go through the NFC West. And so coming to the weekend, I mean, obviously if the Packers had won, they'd be coming here, but I just was like, well, we're going to play somebody from the division. We'll see who it is. And so I was just kind of watching the games, waiting to see who it was. And I think it's going to be exciting. I'm sure it's weird from our end to be like, oh, the Seahawks and 49ers 2 games in a row. But I think for fans, like, this is how the last game went, so this is how this game's going to go. Like, that's not really how football works. We know it'll be a different game.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as a Seahawks insider, what can you tell us about how Seattle used their first round bye?
Yeah, I mean, so Mike McDonald talked about this on Monday. He, was kind of trying to find that balance. He said he's been on teams, in Baltimore where they felt like they need the work, and they had like a 4-day practice week during the bye week. They wanted to give guys a chance to get a little rest. So they did practice a couple days last week. They had kind of a workout day and then 2 practice days. So they still feel like they got a good week of work in, but then they gave the players the weekend off to, go home, do whatever, relax. And then they're back at it, getting some extra work in yesterday and then start kind of a normal practice week today as if today's their Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. Now, looking back to that regular season finale, Mike McDonald held Kyle Shanahan's run game to historic lows in Week 18. What specifically did Seattle do up front that really clicked?
Yeah, I mean, they've really been doing that. That's been one of their biggest strengths all year is their run defense. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher since middle of last season. I think it's 26 straight games now. Opponents average 3.7 yards a carry, which is the lowest in the league. So that's really been a strength of theirs. It's a combination of things. I mean, it starts with the guys up front, obviously, which, sounds cliche, but those guys, you've got, it's really like an unselfish group. Nobody in that line has more than 7 sacks, but they rush the passer really well together. And then they're really good at, doing the dirty work in the run game of taking on blocks, taking on double teams, and then you've got really good players on really the second and third level coming in and cleaning up. So it's a real team effort. We saw it, a lot of gang tackling, just 5-6 guys around the ball, that kind of stuff. That's really become kind of their calling card on defense.
Yeah, it's always a physical game against an NFC West opponent, and especially against Seattle. Now, taking a look at the offense over there, the Seahawks stayed ahead of the chains with their Walker-Charbonnet combo in Week 18. How does that early down success open things up for the rest of Seattle's offense?
I mean, it's huge for them. And I think really any offense, you look at, when offenses struggle, when defenses cause turnovers, get their sacks, it's when you get in those obvious passing, third and long, second and long. And that's been, one of the keys to this recent success is they've been running the ball as well as they have all season. They're over 160 rushing yards in 3 consecutive games. I believe it was 180 against the 49ers, with both those backs really getting in on the action together. So it's become a really important thing for them. Obviously, they didn't put up a lot of points. They squandered some red zone opportunities. They, late in the game, they're more focused on the clock than punching it in there. But overall, I think they're really encouraged by what they saw offensively in terms of, as you said, staying ahead of the sticks, not getting a lot of third and longs, and then just really running the ball well.
Definitely. Now, you said it before, for Seattle, it's going to be back-to-back Niners matchups, and we're not going to see the same game that's not football. So what would you like to see done differently by the Seahawks in this contest after reflecting on the same matchup that happened just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, and Mike McDonald just talked about this as well. He talked about how, when you get two good teams like this, so much of it comes down to the situational football. And, the Seahawks did a lot of that well. They were good on third down. They got off the field defensively on third down. But I mentioned earlier the red zone. There's that first drive where they got all the way down there. They had first and goal to 1, and then went backwards on a sack and kind of missed opportunity. They missed a couple field goals. So it's just some of the little things they need to clean up. They didn't turn the ball over against 49ers. They had put it on the ground once, but that's been, over the course of the season, that's been an issue for this team. They've turned it all over too much. So that would be another one of, you just keep taking care of the ball like they did.
All right, John. Well, this time it's at your house. We'll see you in Seattle for the divisional round.
All right. Thanks for having me.